All right, my timekeeper has let me know we have reached our 120 seconds, so here we go. So if those of you who don't know me, I'm Jonathan Crossley, superintendent here in town, Hope Public Schools. We have wonderful things happening, a lot of great programs, a lot of expansion of programs, and today's conversation is going to be a mesh of letting you know some of the things that we have going and then talking about the reconfiguration conversation and how we got here, why we're here, future conversations around expansion, and all the things. So something that we've clung to this year is hope for the future, right? We don't just want to set up Hope Public Schools for the next 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. We're talking at minimum 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And the board has done a great job. Lots of board members in the House this evening have done a great job leading that effort, approving grants for us to apply for. We've received a lot of those grants, safety grants, $680,000 worth of safety money that we have coming to the district this year, which is crazy. All the things that we need safety-wise, we can account for. $15 million of magnet money for the pathways for different things, expansion of our career tech programs here at the college, and 2-year programs for associates at the college. But it doesn't happen without all of you, right? So if you just look at the screen here, they're not just random pictures, and some of you may have seen some of them before. The bottom left, top right, those are community members. Those are partner organizations, people who want to be a part of Hope Public Schools. And so it's not just the topic that matters today, it's literally you being in these seats today, having this conversation with us as we go forward. So thank you, first of all, for being here. The tone of this conversation, I want to be very clear. We're not at the decision phase yet, but we're close, right? We have to make a decision coming up soon with how we're going to look at this for next year and ongoing years. So we're not at the decision phase today or this week, but it will be coming up soon because we have to make decisions for Mr. Henry, raise your hand. Mr. Henry, raise your hand. Maurice Henry, Jeff Madlock was around here somewhere. Those professionals, in addition to the principals, have to make transition plans if adults or kids are to move from any building to any other building. So this is a timely conversation. We talked to principals and staff members before break, well before break about this. I'm going to present some of the survey results that we sent this out to community members, parents, staff members, students, and it really was a split in terms of who participated. We had around 400 responses, which just to be honest, for a Hope survey, that is great. I mean, really and truly, it's great. And there was some split opinions on this and some good thoughts, and we'll talk about that. All right, so we talked a little bit about this. I want you to imagine, right, a student right now who is born and is in pre-K. They're 3 years old, right? They're at school for the first time. You know you have 13 years, 14 years before they walk across that stage and get the diploma. Okay, on the right, we have two. Kelston Mass graduated last year. Brincy Cabrialis will graduate this year. Top of their class, valedictorian types, very engaged, professional speakers, working jobs, doing all the like. What do we want a graduate of Hope Public Schools to be like, profile-wise, 10 years, 15 years from now? If we don't make some tough decisions and have some tough conversations now, we're literally just kicking the can down the road on what we expect. And if we do that, then we don't really expect anything. We're just saying, hey, we'll see what happens. And that's just not the direction of the board, and I know that's not what you want either. We want to be able to move forward together. So the future starts now. This is something that I want you to have in your spirit, in your brain as we move forward. Hope Public Schools is Southwest Arkansas's premier choice for pre-K through 12th grade education. With our cradle to career pathway, capitalize, boldface, underline all, and all does literally mean all students experience hands-on, individualized learning opportunities throughout their educational journey led by high-quality, eager teachers who are second to none. This is literally the work that we do, that I'm trying to do, that we're doing as a system every single day. Whether it's who we hire, where they're assigned, how they're certified, how they're continuing to be certified, the resources that we're putting in classrooms, the safety that we have prioritized in our buildings, all of this matters if this is the axiom that we're going to shoot for. If this was to say, and this is something that we collaboratively looked at as a district about a year and a half ago, right? If this paragraph or this long, long sentence was to say, Hope Public Schools will be will be an option, we'll have some things for some kids, and we'll see how it turns out. That would not be a very attractive job for teachers. That would not be a very attractive job for school board members, superintendents, or parents. And students would feel the ramifications of that as well. So we want to be excellent in how we do for all kids every day. I won't belabor this, but it takes backwards planning. So if all these things are going to come to fruition for a high school graduate, that 3-year-old who's going to graduate in 13 years, this has to be a backwards planned model, starting now. So I'm going to sit on this for a minute. All schools. So we've done some wonderful things around innovation in our district over time. And I've heard a lot of different thoughts and conversations around hope, depending on the program, returning to a glory day. Now, everybody's got nostalgia. I don't know what's true and what isn't about all of that. But this idea that we were all together doing something together, moving toward a goal together. It doesn't always feel that, this is a real talk conversation. It doesn't always feel that way when I'm in rooms having conversations with community partners or even the chamber or church pastors sometimes or my staff sometimes. And so I'm willing to have these sort of tough conversations with you as a community, as an engaged community, about where we are and why we're here. So if all schools mean all schools, all students mean all students, how we talk and make decisions internally and how we talk and make decisions externally both matter a great deal. Okay? This is the magnet grant pathways I wanted you to see just again. There's a lot of money over the next 5 years being circulated so that all kids can have opportunities. Like, this isn't a small thing. We're the only district in the whole entire state who has this kind of investment. This isn't a small thing. We have a cradle to college and career pipeline starting at Clinton Primary that we're thinking about. So over the next 10 years, if a kid is born in Hempstead County, no matter their socioeconomic background, race, or whatever, they will be able to have access to all of these things that will be a second to none bevy of options that other school districts literally just can't match. Okay? I promise we're getting to reconfiguration. This is just to frame it with we are going places already together. So now let's talk about this piece, the Garland building in the future, okay? HAPS was created as an institution, as a school, a separate LEA 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe implemented 7 years ago, with the idea, best I can tell, of being literally its namesake, an academy for public service, kind of college readiness, having an application process that you go through. Initially, a lot of it was based on academics, and there were some behavior questions and maybe some recommendations for teachers and those sorts of things, right? Inherently, is this a bad thing? Of course not. You want to create a specialized program, that's good. That campus has been successful in terms of letter grade scores and some other things that's been documented well in the community. Physically, we had to put it somewhere, and I've talked to Dr. Hart, who was here previously, and board members who were there at that time. If you're going to do something like that and put students somewhere, you had to find a place. So Garland is the building we still had on the books with us, but it literally has the most negative facility score of any open building with kids that we have. And when I say negative, I don't mean like -2, I mean like -24 or something like that. So when you get to 0, it is time to start thinking about the shelf life of the building and transitioning to other options. The high school, believe it or not, has an average score of around 60 because there are portions of the building that were upgraded 20, 25 years ago and portions that are truly very old, and we'll be talking about that in future years. But this started from a conversation of, okay, long term, we cannot keep 240 kids and 40 staff members in a location that has clay piping for sewage, okay? You just can't do it. And so if we're going to dig that out and do that, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't have in our coffers to do additional projects like this, not to mention there's no gym area there. There's a volleyball net that you can put out there. I mean, if it rains in the middle of that courtyard area, it's not great. The roof got updated by a miracle from God 2 years ago because of the partnership money somehow, but there was leaks there previously. So because of this, we had to start thinking about it. So now we're thinking about it. And so for me, can be sometimes an outside-the-box guy. I don't think this is that outside the box. I think this is just honesty, to be true. This could happen as early, whatever we're talking about, a transition, a change, could be as early as next school year. Could we have students inside of the Garland building for another year or 2, 3? Sure. I feel confident we could have students in the Garland building for another couple of years. I had some tongue-in-cheek comments come my way like, we gotta shut it down, kids can't be in there. Like, I'm not talking about this year, this is a multi-year conversation. But if we're gonna talk about this for the next 10 years, that building won't last with kids for 10 years unless there's major renovations. So the ideas. Some of you may have been a part of these conversations. I know the staff members definitely have. We put out the survey. I'm sure many of you, if you're here today, have looked at that. One idea is to take HAPS as it is currently constructed in terms of enrollment, like everything that is HAPS, and pick HAPS up and move it to a different location. So when you're looking around locations, where would that be? It would, probably be, just based on what we have available, either Burl Henry or Yerger, okay? So if we did that, and that was a separate 5-8 campus that was HAPS as it is currently constructed, then, because it's its own feeder pattern, that's part of the allure to part of what HAPS is, 5 through 8 in one place, then we would create a under one roof feeder pattern that already exists because you have Burl Henry that flows to Yerger, and all 5-8 kids, that would be the option there. So a 5-8 school that is HAPS, like it's currently constructed, moving locations, and then Burl Henry and Yerger combining. There are pros to this. There are cons to this. One of the pros is that we have magnet pathways that are clearly defined. So a kid gets into the HAPS pathway, public service and digital literacy. They continue with that pathway, 5 through 8 in the same building, limited movement in terms of staffing for HAPS. A con is that it does uproot some of the other campuses and cause there to be some growing pains there, and there's still the separate 5 through 8 systems or the separate student populations inside of our 2 middle school schools at that point. We have 3, even though Burl Henry is 5, 6, I still consider that for our organization to be middle school. Here is the elephant in the room that I don't know that people talk about a lot, but I don't mind talking about because I think I can square it up pretty. I'm not from here. I can kind of square it up on base what comes to me. An unintended consequence of having HAPS created with the way that it was created, not that HAPS was created, but the way that it played out, was that there's a feeling with some students, some parents, some staff members, that HAPS is a city on a hill kind of feeling, and that the other campuses are not. And listen, I'm not here to get in feelings about that. I'm just saying that is something that I have palpably felt when I've gone different places. It's come out multiple times. I'm not going to pick on Starlet and Mark, but I'm going to pick on some kids that are not featured in a picture. So last year, I did a courageous conversation with a middle school student at Yerger and a middle school student at HAPS. 2 articulate, wonderful, involved students, right? Middle school students. And how both students talked about HAPS versus how they talked about Yerger bothered me. And we put it out. It wasn't like it was a bad video. It was a fine video. But the way they talked about internalizing feelings of being enough or internalizing feelings of being supported really made me perk my ears up. It just did. So we're an organization of 2,300 kids. And my job is to figure out the best possible way to work with community members, work with staff to get to the best possible place. We talk about equity and what all kids get, The one con, and this is getting to that part, the con of doing this from a decent number of people in the community may be, okay, we just picked HAPS up, moved them to another campus that, I've heard people say some stuff like that they choose, whatever, okay, move them to a different campus, and then all the other kids just get put together and it doesn't feel equitable. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of thought being put into it. It feels like we're stopping the innovation conversation or stopping the innovation thought by just saying, let's pick up and move and slide and keep moving, and that's the way it is. And while there is some logistical sense, this back to the pro, I'm going to stay on these for a minute. There is a logistical pro, somewhat, of having two 5/8s if you already have a 5/8 that is created, like HAPS. Then the model, intellectually or conceptually, makes sense because you already have it at one place, and now you have the STEAM approach, STEAM approach that is combined under one roof for Burl Henry Yerger combined. But it's a real existential question that we have to ask ourselves if we want that to be the way that we look at school for the next 10 years. So that we would still be based on interest, and this is an aside, okay, for both or all three slides I show you on this. Right now, because we have the magnet grant, if you're a middle school parent, you may intimately know this. Parents fill out a choice form that isn't based on grades or teacher references or anything now. It's literally just based on interest, which I think is a positive when it comes to equity, if you want to be honest. So a kid says, hey, I want to do digital literacy. That's my first choice. Well, obviously, that would be HAPS. Hey, I want to do aeronautics in space. Well, Yerger would be your best bet. And so then you would apply and have that be your first or have that be your second, and then the chips fall where they may. That's a lot of choice programs are that way. I feel good about that choice program. But is there a way, okay, segue, is there a way that we could create a system in a community with 10,000 people and 2,300 students, or just under 2,300 students, that makes a little more cohesive sense? Now, do not look at the top and go, didn't we have it this way before? Okay, that's not what this is. I want to go in depth with this because this is a very, honestly, nuanced conversation. Years ago, before we had HAPS, we had all 5th and 6th graders together. We had all 7th and 8th graders together. What we didn't have was the reality of resources, programming, pathways, partnerships that we have now, okay? And I've talked to board members, I've talked to community members, I've talked to Dr. Hart, I've talked to chancellors. We are a different school district now than we were then. We just are, in terms of what kids have access to. So when we're looking at the 5, 6, 7, 8, HAPS becomes a school within a school on both campuses. So you would have the HAPS school within a school for 5th and 6th graders, the HAPS school within a school for 7th and 8th graders, but they would physically be on the Burl Henry and the Yerger campus. So from a simple view, would they all be in the same physical building? Yes, but the experience would be individualized, tailored, and different. We did not have that 10 years ago versus what we have now. So you see the first 3 bullet points. I just said those things essentially. The fourth one, the magnet themes and programs would be separated by hallways. And I don't mean they would never interact. The two programs there shall never meet. They may. Like, because here's something I've heard with the magnet implementation. Let's say you got a kid let's use HAPS, okay? They're doing digital cinema, digital literacy. They're killing it. They're putting out videos. They want to be a podcaster, but they also want to be Inquirer of the Play. We might have a club for that, but it's not going to be a part of their day unless it's over at Burl Henry. And some of that is staffing. A lot of that is, we have to work within the parameters of staffing. If staffing wasn't an option, money wasn't an option, even though we have $15 million, we may be able to give every student an individualized teacher, but that's not the world that we live in. So this pathway, the pros, let's go there, okay? The pros would be, it does something, I think, that is a very, very much a positive. It puts all kids together in some form or fashion again. And I do not view that as a step back because we have all these programs and HAPS has its own separate pathway. the kids still opt in. But if a HAPS kid wanted to take something STEAM related, they could. And if a Yerger kid, traditional Yerger kid, whatever, in the STEAM program, wanted to take digital literacy, they could. David Henderson does a fantastic job. He has teachers that allow him to come in and teach some media skills. Yerger is absolutely killing it right now in terms of their media program, putting out videos and doing a wonderful job. But they're getting that extra benefit because a district employee just likes it and stepped up to do it. Okay, that's just the truth of the matter. A con is something that I've talked about with HAPS staff and other community members. Then HAPS, the 5 through 8 model that HAPS currently isn't its own separate building by itself, like set aside LEA number. The program still runs in 2 separate buildings with oversight and collaboration, and the expectation is still the same, but it's not separate in its own separate building. Some may view that as a con, some may view that as a pro. This is why it's a community conversation, okay? Now, I want to talk a little bit about, I'll talk about it here, okay? Some people say things like, and I get it, okay? I get it. Well, HAPS has our best letter grade. HAPS has a B, okay? So why do anything with HAPS? HAPS has a B. To which I say, that is factual. However, there's a root cause for everything, okay? So HAPS teachers do a fantastic job. They grow kids, just like all teachers in our district do. Shirley Potts sitting right here growing kids every day, okay? That happens. The initial application process to HAPS took into account some academic achievement, and then it kind of skewed that way over time in terms of interest. I'm going to repeat, there's nothing wrong with that. If a parent wants a kid to go into a program that they perceive to be more college ready or whatever, nothing is wrong with that at all, okay? The problem comes in, unintended-wise, when you create a separate LEA, and then you have students who are predominantly ready at that time, taking state assessments, receiving state letter grades, and all those things. It takes the entire population of what a 5th grade population or 6th grade population might be and makes it be a subset of that. So as a result, the HAPS letter grade from the state has been higher than some of the letter grades in the middle school area of Yerger and Burr Henry. Since I've been here all 3 years, Burr Henry and Yerger have both exceeded and beat the odds in terms of growth for math and literacy. Beat the odds, state recognized for math and literacy, okay? So I'm going to paint a picture for you that I painted with the board the other day in our work session that I think is an interesting one that I've been pondering a lot and losing some sleep over, and whatever hair follicles I had left are gone. So if all students were inside of the same LEA, I keep saying that, like LEA is what a state looks at, like your building is an LEA. If all of our 5th and 6th grade students were under one LEA, and they had different, varied, individualized programs, and all of those students were together, we are actually knocking on the door of a B campus. Let that sink in. We're probably a C, okay? But let that sink in. So we got Burr Henry, that's a D. Yerger, that's a D. Beating the odds in terms of growth. If we had all students in those schools in their individualized program, tomorrow, those campuses that sometimes get demonized, sometimes I've heard it come out of people's mouths to me. They're sitting at scores that are higher than Spring Hill, just as an organization, higher than Nevada, higher than Magnolia. So I think the unintended consequence is that by separating in this way, we don't focus on the strength that we actually do have as a group. And so then we talk about ourselves. I've internalized this, I'll be honest, and not in we talk about ourselves a certain way. We do. Internally, we say things like, I don't want my kid going to that school, or I don't want to teach at that school, or what the heck's going on with that school, this program, everybody, not just us, everybody does this, okay? All school districts do this. And then externally, how we talk about ourselves internally bleeds into the community, and then the community talks about that. And then Christy Burns is talking to a business, and they're talking, where's my kid going to go to school? Well, they're zoned for, it's a small town, they're zoned for Burrow Henry. Well, I don't know if I want my kid to go to Burrow Henry, so they had a D letter grade. Do you also know they're beating the odds in how we're growing kids in math and literacy across the state? But that's not the narrative that gets told. And so I'm in a unique position because I get to see all these reports. I get to, like we had the governor come down and visit Burrow Henry whenever it was, 3 weeks ago, and loved what she saw and what she heard. The Commissioner of Education came down last year to Burrow Henry because we had a teacher that was recognized for growing kids in the top 1% of the state. Not all districts have that, and we have that right here in Hope, Arkansas, in Burrow Henry. How we talk about ourselves matter, okay? I'll come back to that. This didn't get much traction, okay? And I know why, because this is an outside-the-box thought, but I want to describe it to each one of you face-to-face and let you simmer on it for a minute. This idea would essentially be reconfiguring longer term. This would not happen next year. If we did a pre-K through second and had a literacy academy, essentially. You ain't leaving unless you're reading. Because I'm sick and tired of the school-to-prison pipeline impacting Hope, Arkansas like it does a lot of communities, but I'm sick and tired of that. So then I think we put our money where our mouth is and we say, okay, we are going to put exponentially more money, even more than we have, on pre-K through second, and all that magnet money that we have for pre-K through second grade kids, like robotics is great and we can do it in a lesson, but you're going to read. Then the third through fifth grade is when the explosion of all those options happen, and I don't know where you put them right now. Don't ask me. I don't know. Burrow Henry maybe? I don't know. The physical building location for some of you is the most important, and I get that. I truly do. I don't have the answer for that. Same thing for 6 through 8. They would be somewhere, and then high school 9 and 12. I could see this being a feasible option. I can see all three literally being feasible options for how we want the next 10 years of education to look in Hope, Arkansas. Here is my reflective question, or my comment and reflective question. This is more of the same. This is more of the same. It is. And the same hasn't treated us very well district-wide. It's treated us well in pockets, but it doesn't meet the mark of that big, bolded, underlined word that I care about deeply. I was a kid that, needed a shot. Lower income when I was growing up, especially before I was 12. First in my family to go to college. My dad had to drop out twice just to pay for some land for his parents to live on. My grandparents didn't get out of middle school. So when I'm hearing my parents tell all these stories and then I become an educator, my hair was and is on fire to make sure all kids get what they need, regardless of background, regardless of race, regardless of creed. And that's something that I'm proud to believe in and proud to talk to you about just transparently, okay? So back to this. This did not get a whole lot of traction, but I don't think because it's not a good idea. I think because it's so outside the box, people are like, what the heck is this? I don't even know what is this? So, we could approach this a lot of different ways. If that hits you or tickled your fancy, then, think about that for a second. Here are the survey results. We had actually 258. There was one that responded while I was getting ready for this. But 239 rated the 258 campuses either a 1 or a 2. They could kind of live with it, their first or their second choice. The second one, 263 rated the separate 5, 6, 7, 8 with HAPS being a school within the school at both as a first or second choice. First choice wise, the 258s had slightly more first place votes, but a whole lot less second place votes. So when you're looking at it on the aggregate, it's like we had about 10 more parents or 10 more people, whoever they were, that said, I kind of like the 258 model. But when it came to combining those first two categories of what you could kind of live with, the winner, whatever, was that. Now, I'm not saying because it's the winner, that's what we're doing, and that you voted, that's crazy. There's 400 people that voted. I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm just giving you some intel, okay? So, you may find yourself on here, I don't know. But so the middle picture here looks like there's not a lot going on because I took the picture and I'm a bad picture taker, okay? But let me tell you, I subbed at Yerger this year for half a day. I've been doing that since I've been here. I love it. It's fun. It's good for me. educational for me. I see 2 kindergarten teachers back there. It's been educational for me. So I heard some commotion going on in the cafeteria after I finished my evening class. And so I turned the corner and went to like, what's going on? They had, I don't know, about 12 students in there flying drones in the cafeteria. The commotion was like, oh my, this is so cool. And the teacher, Mr. Malloy, in there, coaching them up. At Yerger Middle School, let me tell you some of the comments that I get about Yerger Middle School that hurts me to my core. I hear things like, they're not ready. My kid doesn't need to be with those kids. What are they doing special over there? And I'm not saying anybody in this room is saying, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast. I'm literally giving you stuff that comes to me in broad daylight that hurts my heart. And I would be doing an educational disservice if I didn't put some action behind it. The bottom there, that's kind of that same idea of what we're producing. Kids getting accepted into college, us celebrating that. Educational development on the right. Got some teachers who are in this room, 2 of them at least are in this room, getting developed. We're not a perfect district. Here's if there is a such thing as a silver lining, a silver bullet, it would be if all of our teachers who have kids assigned to them in a given day are high quality, informed teachers with the resources they need, knowing how to use them to change outcomes for kids. That is the silver bullet if there is one. That is the hardest work that I have ever done. I've done it as a teacher, I've done it as a principal, I've done it as an assistant superintendent over teaching and learning, and I'm doing it now as a superintendent. We are seeing gains. You know, this is just, Clinton Primary grew a letter grade this past year and grew a lot. Like growing 5 points on the system is considered like you shouldn't do that, that's too much. We were 4.5, literally. The high school, I was shocked to no end that the high school wasn't a C campus this year because their graduation rate was through the roof like it has been for a few years, but their literacy scores were the highest we've had in 7 years. But we didn't quite get over that hump, but we're trending in that direction. While Burrow Henry and Yerger both got recognized for growth. HAPS, and Maryland knows, like HAPS this close to an A. B campus, but had great growth. I mean, 7th and 8th, I'll just point out something. 7th and 8th grade literacy, like, I don't know if you can get much higher. Like, we almost topped out right there. The fix, okay, is what happens in the classroom every day. Literally. Like, when you have a classroom with a caring adult and a group of caring adults who want to make sure that kid gets what they need, you can move mountains. And I'm not trying to make this about me by any stretch, but I have literally seen that up close in a couple ways, okay? I saw it as a teacher. The kids that I taught literally had the most growth in the history of the state of Arkansas for high school literacy. And that's not a joke or like some literally 36% on grade level to 92% on grade level over a 4-year span. Elementary school where I was principal, where it was 58% English learners, less than 1% or 1% Caucasian, grew to the point to get off the academically distressed list in 2 years. You know, I have seen this up close. You can configure your campuses we can configure our campuses however we want to. But if we don't have that thing happening every day, it will amount to a hill of beans. And so I'm telling you that to say, whatever we do is not going to be the thing. The thing is the magic in the classroom that you all feel whenever you recall who your favorite teacher was. I know mine. Billy Pennington changed my life. Exposed me to Washington, D.C. and a whole different career path. I was going to be an attorney, a civil rights attorney. To change kids for kids like me who didn't get a shot. But that led me down a path that led me here. And I wouldn't change it for the world. We all have those stories. So that's kind of where we are. That's not kind of, that is where we are. And I am fully aware that sitting in this room right now, there will be different opinions, there'll be different thoughts, there'll be different experiences, but I do want to open this up, but in a way that is respectful and in a way that is kind of organized. So David Henderson is going to time keep for us. If you have a comment or an easy question, that's fine. If you have a longer statement that you would like to make in some fashion, I do want you to keep that and request that you keep that professional, civil, but there'll be a 2-minute time limit on that just because of time, right? This does not have to be the last time that we do this. It won't be. If we end this meeting today and it's like, I think we should have another one, we will. But the timeline that we're on for some of this is February 20th or by the end of February. And the reason is that's the February board meeting. That's when the board would make a decision on this. We've been talking about this in different circles for 5 or 6 months. Even back when we were talking about the millage request, this was something that we kind of knew. Maurice, are you back there still? We kind of knew something like this was going to have to happen if we did not pass the millage request, which we did not, okay? Just saying. So this is where we are. I'm open for all comments, questions, and concerns anyone may have. We have a microphone here. This is a small enough room that I think if you project your voice, you can get out and be heard. So yeah, that's, well, hold on. Board members, okay? You're living this in different ways than I am. Do I have any board members that want to say anything before I turn it over to community? And the answer can be no, that's fine. Okay. Any parents, students, community members have any thoughts, questions at this time? Yes, ma'am.
So just for clarification, February the 20th is the time we have to make a decision on reconfiguration, or?
Well, so if we're going to move for next year, so if we're going to make a move for the next calendar year, or next school year, a decision needs to be made next month. Because if it doesn't, it puts us on an unrealistic expectation of things getting done, like of teachers' things getting moved, of student communication happening, of student assignment happening. It's an unreasonable expectation. So if we don't decide, I think we have enough, my 2 cents, I think we have enough information to be able to decide. But if we don't decide, we could decide in a future year. But rarely have I seen progress delayed turn into something that is good for people generally.
Okay, second board.
Yeah.
So are you still taking surveys for the reconfiguration, or how would that decision?
Yep, so we had our initial survey about this, and now we're doing this. Like, I want to look at people in the eye, talk with them about this. We can have another one. We could put another survey out about this. I wasn't planning on putting another survey out just because it's not, if a model gets one more vote, that's the way we're going. That's not really the way this is constructed. It's to gain feedback about options, choices, and there's a lot of comments. Like, a lot of people who voted or took the survey put comments in there. And some of them were informed comments, and some of them were like, I just wish I could talk to that person first. A couple of comments were like, can we just leave it alone? Not exactly, right? Like, and the reason is because of the issue at Garland and its negative score. If we could leave it alone and not have to, worry about these sorts of dire issues with facilities, maybe we do for a little longer, but we don't have that luxury.
So with the results you have now,
you want to co-present? Come on, Shirley. Come on, co-present.
with the results you have now, which configuration will we be voting?
That's what this, no, okay. So people think decisions already been made on all these things. Listen to me. I think people aren't used, this is literally the process. Like, I'm asking you, what do you think? And so the way I'm leaning right now, that's what you're trying to figure out, sure? That's what you're trying to figure out, yeah. So I think this 5, 6, 7, 8 model, perhaps is a school within a school, makes a whole lot of sense because it still is its own thing and can be, there are such things as pods or houses or teams that schools all across America, good ones, utilize. That's exactly what this would be. Like, I don't want to get too specific because then I'll be wrong if it happens, and then you'll be like, that guy told me. But an example could be that whole first hallway down there at Burl Henry could be reconfigured to be like a HAPS hallway or whatever we want to call it hallway. And there could be some specials in the middle area, and the STEAM pathway could be on the backside because right now we already have some things that have been put in and installed this year that could be that. I could see that working from an adults moving standpoint and a kids moving standpoint. This is more of the same with more movement of adults and kids technically. And I'm not saying that's the only rationale for this, but it's on the cons list, okay? And so this conversation, the board will ultimately decide, right? The board will ultimately decide on the 20th or sometime soon on what that would look like. but I'm leaning this way because what I think this does, Shirley, yeah, when I got hired 3 years ago or whenever it was a good process, man. It was. Like, I got to talk to a lot of community members, a lot of teachers, classified staff, and not all y'all liked me by then. I know that. Not all y'all liked me. I hope I'm growing on some of you, but I get that. Because when you're hiring a superintendent, that really matters, like having that connection. One of the things that came up, no matter who you were, no matter what your skin color was, or no matter your background was, we got to do something about bringing hope together. I don't care who you are. Pastors, community leaders, principals, staff members, classified staff, bus drivers, secretarial staff, people that I talk to at Lions Club. And the unintended consequence of this was we talked about HAPS and the Collegiate Academy, but that's a different thing that is structured differently, as not being Hope Public Schools somehow. Like, it's almost like Hope Public Schools, HAPS though, that's the thing. And I actually get it. Like, I understand some of that because you're saying there's this choice piece, your kid goes here, there's a special program. The difference now, okay, and I'm articulating this to you, is that we have specialized programs in all of our campuses and 13-year-olds are flying drones. Like, things are happening now that weren't happening then in different ways. So thank you. Yes, ma'am. I'll go back and then I'll come to you. Yes, ma'am.
I want to elaborate on why people may have that kind of feeling about
Okay.
camps.
Great.
My daughter started out at she's been there 5th grade. When she started out, she tested in.
Yep.
So they have to test in, and they had to have a certain conduct. So that kind of set the tone for that, because your kids have to be behaved to go there. If you're a parent and you've been involved with HAPS for all these years, you go, you walk through the hallway, you go visit school. It's just a whole different vibe. Like, the vibe is so calm, the teachers are so relatable, the kids all are connected, and the teachers are very caring. And that is what I think people are worried about losing. Because, like, if you combine that girl everywhere, you're hearing about fights all the time, you hear about 2 or 3 fights a year, and people are scared to put their kid in the middle of it.
Yep.
And that's just what I...
So thank you for that, and I want to elaborate. I think that's a well-received comment, but I want to address it head on. If we don't do something about how we talk and view our programs, then it's going to be this, I heard and this was, or I know a fight happened, I dadgum know it, okay? I showed up at school and nobody greeted me at the front office, and so then those reps become how you view that different location. I am telling you academically, there are things happening at every single school that are great. Burr Henry, killing it. Yerger, killing it. They have areas of growth just like HAPS does. We've talked about HAPS in some areas of growth that they have around different things. All schools in the United States of America have room for growth. The problem that causes the pushback, take one step back with me, just come with me for a second. As the superintendent, if we know that, and I know that, and we don't do something structurally about the entire system, then I'm having educational neglect. And so I'm just being the person that I think is doing what I've been tasked to do, of looking at this objectively to say, can we rethink this? Can we do this differently? Where all actually means all, not just from a PR perspective, but what kids can actually get. Because now, all that money for a district our size means literally if your kid wants to do all these different things, they can. But there's barriers and limitations just on some of this because we don't have the capabilities the way it's currently constructed. In addition to the actual physical building being in declining shape. So I love what you just said. I think it encapsulates a lot of feelings. Yes, back to you.
So the teachers that are currently at HAPS, no matter what the reconfiguration,
Yes.
they would just,
Yes, no one would lose a job in this process. So when I talk to teachers about this is an interesting point. So if we did something like this and didn't have a staffing change, model change in the next 5 or 6 years, we may very well have to do a reduction in force where there's a point system and like you no longer have a job if you don't, on a list. I've been a part of that process during a district turnaround effort. It's not fun. Giving somebody a pink slip because you don't have it in the budget is not fun. Now, if and when we move quickly, this year, next year, whenever, it's just an attrition game. So if somebody resigns, retires, whatever, then you just don't hire that position back, and you see people that can move to different locations, and that's how it works. So no one would lose their job under this sort of a move, and then you're fiscally setting yourself up better too, because running and operating, okay, I say this to superintendent buddies, and they get really, they understand. Running 3 schools with 200 kids in them with the capacity of 500 apiece is not fiscally responsible longer term. So that's all of that together. People will not lose their jobs if something different happened like that. And longer term, if we kept it the same way, status quo for 10 years, eventually we're going to be handing out pink slips because we're overstaffed in that regard. Because we just are. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So is this happening because of the
No, definitely not. The millage, the millage would have assisted with some of the monies for operational costs, but no, that's neither here nor there, really.
What is involved if you're all
Oh, you mean a number for facility upgrade? That's a different meeting. It depends on what you want. I'll piggyback off that to say this. When I first got here, a thought was, why don't we build a comprehensive middle school that's 5'8", like bigger, bolder, 5'8" or 6'8" or whatever, and then it does something really good. Community loves it, students love it, like dadgum. It's the best and brightest situation. You know how much a school is? Somebody guess. Some of y'all been to these meetings. You know how much is a school, to build a school? For 600 kids, how much is it? Y'all split the difference between y'all 60 and 45, somewhere in there, $1 million, okay? In our operational account, we had $700,000 when I got here. Right now, we have close to $4 million. We can't finance that, right? And so a brand new school for our tax base, we could, but had passed the millage and all that to build that. The infrastructure gains, we've priced out high school. I mean, you said the whole district. So the high school, about $5 million would bring the Old Main portion of the high school to be top-notch and exceptional. It's about $5 million there. Yerger is about $6 million for their entire project, but we have $1 million with partnership money for the gym to fix that. So about $4 or $5 million there. HAPS would be $15 million, like Garland itself. Burrow Henry is actually decent, right? Because there was an extension on the backside there, so that's probably $2 million. So all in all, $20 million or so is a round number, and we don't have that kind of capital to do, but we have to do something with the buildings we have. The backside of that comment, because we have too many buildings open, technically from the state's perspective, we don't get partnership money for new buildings. Okay, so we got partnership money at a good rate for the new Agri complex. That's being done now. The new Yerger gym renovation, because it's go visit, okay? That's going to be great when that happens. We have money for that. But what is 26% or 28% of $50 million? The answer, more money than we have, okay? So Misty's like, yes, keep talking like that. Misty looks at our finances every day and knows we just don't have that. This, okay, allows us to think about long-term planning to where we take one building off the academic roll. Let's see what happens with growth or decline or whatever. Like districts in South Arkansas are great, but because of population and jobs are slightly declining, they just are. Our projection is not to be a 5,000 kid school district. Our projection is to be a 2,000 kid school district over the next 10 years. So I'm looking at this from that kind of a fiscally responsible way too. And well, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Let's just take the example of fitness sixth grade will go broken. Okay, let's just take that one. And if I understood you correctly, you said that in one section of Burl Henry would be like maybe the one that has one light and anything that goes with that. In another section, it could be maybe drama or something that goes with that. Okay. The kids that do not want any of that, where will they be housed in Burl Henry?
That's a great question. So that's not exactly what I meant by the pod structure. So it would be, as HAPS is currently constructed, they have interest in advisory and kind of that family feel for their group. That stays intact when they come over to a different campus based on the grade level. Burl Henry and Yerger currently are looking at their STEAM programs, and they have all the investments around science labs, robotics labs, EAST labs that physically could be in one place for that pathway. So essentially, to use magnet language, we would have a HAPS digital literacy pathway and a STEAM pathway all in the same school, which is what a lot of school districts do without having to have this kind of conversation around HAPS that's already been created. They look at a high school, for example, and go, all right, we got this pathway for here, this pathway for this pathway for this. We're all in the same school. What do you want to do? Everybody takes a test at the end of the year. Your letter grade is what it is. You grew how you did. Your teachers, if they're certified to teach in that area, they teach in that school, and you move on. And not every school, Lord knows, not every school, but it breeds a little more unity than the conversations we're having right now, just about middle school specifically. We don't have the same conversation about the high school and elementary as we do the middle school, and this is part of the reason why. I'm not saying this makes us all one happy, no problems family by any means, but I think this gets us some places versus not doing it.
So my part of the question about asked, the kids that don't want to do any of those programs, they're just on regular classes. Are they broken?
Yep, the same problem would exist no matter the school. So that would be a counselor problem, whether you're at HAPS or whether you're at Burl Henry, because we have specialized extracurriculars and different programming for kids to do, right? So you're going to get your core regardless. But being a kid who comes in and says, I don't want to do anything else, I just want to sit here, is not encouraged. Because right.
But, I mean, you're being realistic. There may be some that just doesn't want to, or, I mean, are you talking about being in a class, or?
We do not have to, so if a kid comes in and they don't want to do anything, there's a lot of problems there.
They're core classes.
Right, but
Will there still be?
Yes, yeah, of course it will. Yeah, I use those as examples because we just spent a lot of money on those, but there's other electives as well. Business classes, the digital literacy classes, robotics classes, extra science and math, accelerated science and math classes, in addition to all the new shiny classes that we have that are being successful right now. So yes, they'll still get a tailored experience. If they don't want to be the 4.9 GPA student with all of the extracurriculars, they don't have to be. Like that is not how that has to work. But the same existential question you're asking, if we didn't change anything, would still be there. And the principals would still be handling that issue because we want them involved in something.
Okay. Will it be still considered like a service?
yes, yes,
Like a service project?
yes, ma'am.
So all of that is intact, right? That stays solitary for sure.
So really, in a way, you're saying it would feel like saying, I'm just going with 56 right now, but like if they're at one school, what you're really sort of saying is you're encouraging everybody to sort of be in a HAPS program.
You could view it that way. So I don't think about it exactly in those terms because I think about Burl Henry and Yerger having what they need as well, and we went down this magnet pathway. So I think of it like we have specialized programs for everybody. But if you have been in the community for 20 years and you view HAPS a certain way, you could view it like now all kids are getting a HAPS experience. And that wouldn't technically be wrong. It would be a little bit delayed information, but it wouldn't be wrong. So that individualized, special feel we're trying to have in all of our schools, Burl Henry, Yerger, and we're seeing evidence of that, would be true. Like they would have that specialized programming on those campuses.
Yes, ma'am. Garland, yes, ma'am.
Right, that's a great question. Misty, cover your ears. So we still have use for it, but not in the sense of that. Yeah. So it can have, for example, it could have 14 adults in there. It can't have 300 people over there, right? So I'm thinking about administrative offices for people to carry out their tasks, professional development, those sorts of things. Because as a school itself, there's portable buildings, no gym, makeshift rooms, and they make it, listen, they make it work. HAPS does a fantastic job of making that facility work. They're probably even mad at me for even saying anything's wrong with their building. Like, I get it. Like, y'all make that work and do a good job. That's not what this is about. There is a, I'll just be real honest. There is a law that was passed a couple of years ago that says if we don't have a building in use, we have to offer it up to a charter if they want to use it or put it on a list. I don't want to do that. I don't think we should do that. So, I mean, we have people that are spread throughout the district that are doing a job that are just in random places, like Dr. Clark. We have Carla. We have like all kinds of people, including our boardroom. Our boardroom is upstairs, and that's not very optimal for some of our population. So, I think we had Mr. Russell, and then we had Ms. Jones in the back. That was actually my question. Okay. Ms. Jones, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say that I had my granddaughter was the first student I know somebody this farm in all the first things at the past. I have no problem with that. I have a grandson and that two grandchildren. Now I love HAPS, okay? I love her because that's where I worked at in my education. And we don't have fights every day. And Sapari, I would love for you to come to school, stay with me all day. Okay? We don't have fights in our schools every day. I mean, we just don't. It's not that our school is great. We have a wonderful school. We have great participants. And you know, we have a family.
Oh, yeah, big time.
We love all the kids love us. It's a great school. So I just want you to come one day and try school before you're saying and say, well, they're having fights every day. Like our school is horrible. It's not a great school. I mean, it's great. I mean, we have our student tutoring stuff, which they're teaching sewing. Right?
You're teaching sewing? I'm going to come.
That's fine. I mean, we do a lot of the things that grow here. I love growing here. I love all the schools. Like I said, yes, I love that. It is an old school. Cass is great. I went to school at Gerber. Was the last people that graduated from Gerber. Hey, I'm a Gerber type. I mean, we have great schools all around here.
They really do.
We need to come together, get our schools back together, because they are separated. It's been a 10 years ever since Bart and they did that.
Well, okay, we good. Are we good on time? Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Jones. Okay, thank you. Other comments?
Comments? This one.
Hey there, good evening. I just wanted to give you a little break. I see you just took your bring it down Sylvia grant in 6012B. And I wanted to encourage you to take that dream because you asked a few moments ago, school board. They are our elected representatives. Ms. Dickinson, Ms. Powers, President Hamilton, Mr. Courtney, Ms. Haynes. You are an administrative role, and we need to hear from the folks that we elect on the ballot. You have the preference. What say you? Our elected representatives.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. So that is the prerogative of the individual board members. I will say the relationship between board member and superintendent is an intimate one on purpose, no matter what district you're in. The school board technically has one employee, and it's me. And it's my job to lose my hair thinking about all these things, and I accept that duty with open arms. So if they have a take on this or a comment they'd like to give, that's totally fine, but I don't want to unnecessarily put you on the spot either. So,
Unnecessary, they are elected.
well, that's your perspective, and I agree with it in many respects. So do we have any questions or comments or from the board members?
No question, but something just because I'm a parent, I'm a bus driver, and I work at HAP. Number one, let's not forget that some of the teachers that are at HAP came from very Clinton primary. So, hey, we're good, because we're good. Number two, I have kids that went through every single campus. I had she's seen now, she was very younger, and she's still a straight A student. So, just because they did have fights, or they do have fights, but they did not make her or break her from who she is. Matter of fact, I tell her it's good to have those experiences because if you so happen to have to go to work at Walmart or Tyson, you know how to do it. This year we had an opportunity to just kind of get different kids, and our teacher innovation is kind of open. And so I did have some kids that were different. They were kind of like Miss White. They were kind of jumpy and talkative and just kind of extra. And they wanted to find out that house didn't work for them. And I go to that campus or like I coach basketball and they see me now and they're still, hey, Miss White, what's going on? So it works for them to move. So I kind of like the 5-8 with HAPS or something like HAPS being implemented in both campuses. So just to think about it, again, same teachers, and because people are different and students are different, still allow them to, like you said, the block schedule because everything ain't for everybody.
Yeah. So that's a good perspective. And before I turn it back over to the board members, I forgot to say this because I didn't put it on the PowerPoint. Yes, ma'am, I'm coming directly. Give me one moment, I won't finish this thought. So I have kids every year, this is really funny, it's so funny, that leave HAPS and they go to the high school because that was that 9th grade year, you go to the high school. If you want to springboard to collegiate academy or not, that's up to you. Almost everyone that I've talked to is like, yeah, high school was good. Like, it's high school. Like, we went to school, we did classes that we had to take and some that we wanted to take, and we did an extracurricular, and now I'm at the tennis court. So, what you talking about? So sometimes I think we create this extra level of this ain't good, and kids are watching. Kids are like, well, and that's what hurt my heart about some of the conversations I've had with some kids. It's like they've internalized the conversation about another campus not being a good campus. Did I know nobody in this room wants that? I'm just making you aware of it and trying to do something about it. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to elaborate that what I spoke was not my personal opinion. It's just what I feel like people as a community, the idea that they have, because I've
Right.
still parents
Yep.
and other campuses. So I'm not just speaking from my point of view. I mean, I'm all for everything being
Yep.
doing because, I mean, if that's what it has to be, that's what it has to be. You just have to make it work. But, I mean, I don't like being taken for, like, I'm the one who had that idea.
I don't think that's what they were doing, but I don't want to speak for anybody. I didn't perceive it that way. I'm just going to go back here and say internally and externally, that's the way some things have been perceived. And again, let's do something about it. Yes, sir.
Children can go to the house.
Sir?
Or there are limited children.
So it's all capacity issue. So technically, yes, based on staffing. So a teacher can have 150 kids on their caseload. As it's currently constructed, and mark me if I'm wrong, Ms. Marks, I think the capacity at HAPS right now is 260, 265. Yeah. So they're at 25, 30. Yeah. So they have capacity to grow like 20 more kids. When you have all of a grade level together, then you have a different way of looking at staffing that you can maximize. Because technically, ain't no technically, it's real. Like, you got a school that's got 200 kids in it and your max is 150 for a teaching load. We're overstaffed somewhere because we have a 7th grade this and an 8th grade that, and technically we should have 1.5. So you keep adding up all those half-time FTEs that are now $75,000 a pop because they used to be a little, I'm not saying they should be cheaper, I'm just saying from a budget standpoint, is $50,000 for salaries for brand new teachers. Then you add salary and benefits for retirement and all that, that's another $25,000. Every teacher now costs the district $75,000. And that's good, like there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the dollars and cents piece that we have to be mindful of looking at it long term. Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. I didn't touch on that. That's a great question. So if did everybody hear that question? Yep, here.
Understand. If HAPS were to move to Borough Henry, would that increase the enrollment you would accept for students at HAPS?
The board can answer this, or I could, because we talked about this in the board work session. The short answer is yes. Okay, because then you would look at it a little differently in the programs of what there'd be some staffing that would move a little bit, but you would have two systems that are relatively equal in enrollment. It'd be about 315 kids per campus. So HAPS would be able to expand with a little more students in the 5-8 model that way, but the same kind of butterfly effect would happen if they were in a 5-6 school within a school and a 7-8 school within a school. Either way, and if you can look at it this way, either way the enrollment of the HAPS program will expand, just because we'll be consolidating on some level. These are all great questions, good perspectives. Any others? Yes, ma'am.
You might have answered this, but I'm a little bit confused. So, and I understand HAPS is great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not on dog HAPS, okay? But I am asking, if we're going to go on and put the babies at 2 different campuses, why are we keeping the HAPS mindset? We're all about trying to fix things. So we talk about how there's a lot of separation and a lot of issues. And I'm going to tell you, in the district and as a parent, if you talk about Garland Younger, there are bad schools, are they not? And then you hear HAPS, and that's our good, it's our good kids. And that's not the truth either way we go, whichever way it goes around. But my thing is, why are we keeping this HAPS mindset? Why do we not absorb what HAPS has? Just make 5th and 6th grade, 5th and 6th grade, we have the magnet, put everything together instead of separating and putting these titles on everybody that you're this and you're that. Why are we keeping HAPS so darn bad?
Great perspective. I'm going to answer this, and I'm not being tongue-in-cheek. You know me well enough to know that's what we're doing. So what you're saying is what we're doing. HAPS already existed before I got here, and some board members were on the board, and some people even moved to this place. And that's not bad because it was a specialized academic program. When we applied for that $15 million, we said, we get it. That's a program and a pathway, good. What we didn't have was other options for pathways. So now we have this starburst effect of what your pathways could be, and so the name HAPS, y'all can decide what y'all want to call all these pathways. If you want to change the name of them, whatever. But I'm saying there's that public service, digital literacy, advisory forward, because advisory at HAPS looks different than advisory other places. It does, and it works. Okay, I'll tell you about what works. That's there, and then the STEAM component that we're building out with our magnet is also there, and it's just choices for kids. Like when I was a high school kid many, many years ago, I had choices. I couldn't do every program. I chose the ones I liked. We're getting more intentional about how we structure people's time to get that done for kids. So I'm not trying to be evasive. I'm telling you that's exactly what we're doing. You know, HAPS name, if you love it or don't, that's up to y'all. But like, the pathway is a good one. It's just a matter of how we talk about it. Because we've already changed the entry of how people get into HAPS, which I think was a step in the right direction, as do many others. You may disagree with it, that's up to you, but by not making it be a cut score and all the other components, we allowed it to be more interest-based, so more kids could have access to the wonderful things that are happening. That's not, to me, that's a net positive for all kids. All right.
But there's going to be an entry, anything you get in, if you put all 5th and 6th grade girls.
Correct. You may have a special interest like you do at the high school or something where you're on a CTE track or you're on a whatever track, right? Like if you want to be a completer in agri, you're probably going to need to take some agri classes, right? If you want to be an aeronautics engineer, you probably should take some of the courses that Yerger has, the STEM approach that Yerger has. Yes, ma'am.
So we talked about the magnet courses.
Sure.
What would the core classes look like?
Mhm.
I have a daughter who's she's in 6th grade now. She already has that goal in mind.
Right.
And she's already inspired with
It's good. It's good.
So are there going to be, are the core classes, are they going to have an option that's going to be more college readiness?
I'm gonna say something crazy to you, and then I'll come back and I'll backdoor that answer. Aren't they all? Like, but hear me on this, because I get where you're coming from, and I'm gonna go right at that. But here's the problem that I have internally. We're saying that a certain group of kids, because they're going to this campus, is like college bound, and then we have kids that aren't, and that's just not true. Because we had our Gear Up meeting today. The parent meeting wasn't well attended. I think that's partially our fault on communication, but the student event, like, they were all in. All those 7th grade kids, like, you about to give me money to go to college and support me all the way through? Heck yeah. And so I'm shaking hands and talking to the kids, and they're like, I want to be, literally, I want to be a doctor. Like, looking at me like I'm crazy. Yeah, I want to be a doctor. Do you not think I want to be a doctor? Where you want to go to school? Harvard. So who am I to say, no, you ain't. Let's reduce your expectations of who you want to be. And there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of vets and doctors and lawyers. They're also 13, okay? Let's not limit a kid's next 40 years of their life based on their zip code or whatever. So there's that from a superintendent's perspective that I have to say. We are looking at how all teachers, I'm coming to you next, how all teachers are teaching in their class and being supported in their class, and that's my job to make sure we do a better job of that. That's across the district. You can expect, so in that scenario you pointed out, the same experience that you're getting there academically in the core, you should get academically in the core when they're a school within a school. Academically in the core, as we mentioned previously, the best thing you can do for a teacher, or excuse me, for a kid, is have a great teacher. And the problem we play sometimes, and I hate it, and some of it's a scale issue, is that parents, I see a lot of y'all, it's like you're playing a dang lottery. Especially if you're in elementary. You're playing the dang lottery. And I think we're doing a great job of securing great teachers no matter where you are and supporting them no matter where you are. I see that. Some great things happening. But if you're like, I don't want that teacher. Clinton Primary has like 9 first grade teachers. I don't want that one. Lord, please in heaven, please don't give me that one. And that's really not a joke. People spend their months of April and May praying to God they don't get that person. And that's a problem that we have to fix. That's a problem that all schools have to fix. But what I'm telling you is we're trying to fix that too. So the experience that you get academically won't change. The expectation will be if she wants to go to college and be a, are you the one? Is that your mama? You want to talk? Okay, well, yes ma'am, Ms. Robbins.
I think too many times they think that they're getting more specialized or more advanced classes. I mean, I used to teach 6th grade at Garland down at Clinton Primary, but Miss Patty and I from HAPS, I would sit down side by side with her and she would say, hey, what book do you want to do? I'm doing this book, let's do that book. They are getting the exact same vibe of instruction at whatever campus that they're on. I mean, we all use the same strategies. I mean, some classes sometimes you may be like, hey, I'm going to pick this book because it's geared more toward towards these kids' interests, but it's nothing as to what what level or whatever the kids are on. They're getting specialized instruction and getting the same types of books and interactions at any of it.
So who did the assistant commissioner come down last year to see because of their growth score? What teacher was that? And what campus were you at last year? Yeah, so it's like, those are the things that are like, sometimes are hard to get out, but they're nevertheless true. And I see that every day. Yes, sir. Uh-oh, principal in the room. We got Principal Burrow Henry talking. Mr. Keita Jones.
I really want to say this. I can't sit really over and hear what I'm hearing about my kids. I only have there clearly. My kids rough around the edges, yes. But that's what y'all gave us. And 12. We're getting what they got in their home. This is how they come to us. We have 8 hours, 2 years to prepare these kids for when they go to Mr. Road. And they only see us for 8 hours for 2 years. And guess what they going back home? To the same place they came from, where they're not getting the proper training that we had. So we should take all the kids and put them at paths. You're taking those role models that's their age away from them. That one kid that can say, hey, you're not doing that. They lost that role model. And all they have in that building are the teachers that's there to be their role model. That's it. Now, perhaps I'm taking a lot of their things because it works. Advisory works. Win works. So trying to keep HAPS, it works. It's proven. But taking those kids away from 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and 12-year-olds, they lost the role. They lost it. So if you're going to keep giving Burrow, Henry, and Yerga all the kids that don't have those role models, we're going to take it, but understand that comes with those fights. That comes with that behavior. And me and this man, He already gray, I'm going. And in 1 year, you just come here, the behavior I have in Berlin is nowhere near what I came from.
Go ahead.
My boss might get me, I just couldn't bite my tongue and hear us talk about it. My kids been waiting for it.
This is a community, you live here and work here.
They're rough. They are, and I'm not gonna take it from them. Some days are easier than others. And my teachers, they call on me and they know I'm gonna take care of them. I gotta give those kids 10 times more love because I don't know what they're getting at.
All right, I'm gonna stick to a little bit of time on that. Thank you. We got Ms. Tackett, and then I'm gonna come to you. Yes, ma'am.
Perhaps my age and different kids. We're learning from this community. Our kids used to run, and the kids run off there. We're getting those kids. The difference is whether or not you love those kids. And it's the feelings that you get from rolling here. It's the feelings that you get at halves. We are a family. It's just know we are a family. And if they struggle, they come to us with their struggle. And we are the family.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. And Ms. Taggart's experienced on multiple levels. She's been in the district, worked at Yerger previously. And again, so I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do my job and not going to bite. Maybe I never bite my tongue. I don't know. Some of y'all may think I do. I don't bite it too much. I'm going to push back a little bit, and I think you'll understand the reason why. Burr Henry loving them kids too. Yerger loving them kids too. And I know you know that, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't disagree. I think there is, the conflicting factors is, I ain't going to go back and play armchair quarterback on anything, but it's the conversation that we've continued to have around who's where and why. It just is. I'm not going to play armchair quarterback on anything. I wasn't here. I ain't going to speak on it. I just know how it's played out. There's been a ripple effect that very much, I just feel like I have to do something about it. That needs to be fixed. And I think, I'm going to tell you right now, I can feel it. I'm about to preach a little bit. This place is so close to being exceptional. Like, it really is. But some of it is mindset that we've put on ourselves. We've set a ceiling on who we are and who is what inside of our district instead of accepting, and I'm going to push back on you. Yeah, your kids sometimes might be rough around the edges. Taggart says, yeah, so are mine. But they're also awesome. They also have wonderful characteristics and traits they bring to the table. And the same thing for Haps. We're talking about 12-year-olds. Who were you as a 12-year-old? I was trying to flirt with girls and throw erasers at people. Like, who were you at 12? I mean, but that's part of being an adolescent. And we're demonizing too quickly instead of expanding and seeing the strength that we have in our community. So we're 89% free and reduced lunch. If you're a school person, that means something to you. If you're not, just means not high income. The state average is actually 64. The state average. There are districts that sometimes have A letter grades, and they're 25%. And that is picking in a different way. So HAPS is not in that boat, okay? Nobody's saying that. That's not what this is. It's just a matter of how we move in a better direction together. All good questions, all good thoughts.
They're our kids. I agree with that. I agree with that. But
Not only like to talk about how wonderful all the kids are, but folks, we got some great teachers. Here that are taking our kids and moving to places that I didn't see them going several years ago. We just showed a video at the school board meeting. My kids from here, where I talked to the school board members about not only are they answering their own questions, but they're making their own answers, but they're asking their own questions. They're guiding their own learning to try to get to where they want to go in life. And that's because of the teachers that are firing them up. Because our motto is the mind is not the vessel to fill, it's a spark. If I give you the information, that's all you're ever going to own. But if I light a fire and you burn it yourself, you don't have the rest of your body. That's what we're doing at all the schools, not mine. At all the schools.
thing we have to remember is we are all community. And through this process, we're gonna have to stay united. I told my folks in ELC, if you can't tell your story without down somebody else, you don't have a story to tell. So our staff is wonderful. We have a family environment. I wanna see that spread throughout the district. I love our kids, I love our staff, positive things are going on everywhere. We don't pick our kids from the cabbage patch, and our teachers can tell us that we have problems too. We just try to make sure we stay on top of those problems, and I think every principal is doing it. So I just want to see great things for this district. I think we're doing great things as a district. I think we can be honest.
I agree. Thank you, Ms. Marks. And again, I'll speak about these 3 campuses. I've seen and know great things that happen at your campus that I look forward to seeing when I go there. Same for you, same for you. This isn't a matter of, oh, I really don't want to go to Yerger today. Like, I'm excited to go to Yerger and go down that 8th grade hall and see what they're doing with their hands-on learning. Like, it's fun for me to do that. Same thing with Burrow Henry. It was a pleasure to take the governor around to Burrow Henry. It was. So, any other? Yes, ma'am.
You can say whatever you want to. There you go.
Go to other schools. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I love that age group. I mean, you're a mess. I don't know the principal at Yerker. I don't know the principal at Broken. But I will say this year, I have, you hear things in the community. People say things to you, especially if you've been a teacher. It seems like they're a little bit more prone to say things. I have heard nothing but praise and good things about the principal at Broken. Give credit where credit's due. I said, I ask questions, now I want to say I think it's a good thing. And whatever y'all decide, I think the majority of the community will back you. It's just that there's too much stuff that gets out. You don't know what's true and not true. So when decisions are made, just let the community know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And again, that's why we're trying to do this and be transparent on where we're going. And back to that slide, I know it's like 5 words on it, but internal and external, how we talk about ourselves and how we talk about our kids and our community makes or breaks the community. I mean, I see the mayor in here, he knows, same thing with city government and the people, economic development, same thing. Nobody wants to come to a place or be involved in a place where people are negatively talking about it day in and day out. We're over time. I'm okay with this. I could do this until the cows come home, but people probably want to do dinner and other things. Do we have any thoughts, questions, or considerations before we leave this meeting? And I'll say some closing bow remarks before all that, but anybody, questions, thoughts, concerns? Okay. School board member, Bubba Powers.
Well, first of all, speaking for the school board, anyone that knows me, and virtually every one of them know me, I've never been reluctant to say it. One of the things that I want to say is I agree with Mr. Jones. I've been to Mr. Jones's campus. I've taken some of my youth services workers that love him and talk about how much he loves his kids. I know this lady. She's an A+, and all of our other teachers. We all know that. The world has changed since I walked off that Hammond Stadium field 52 years ago. Education has changed a great deal. You look up here and pick out any word. Well, let's pick out internal. We had too many people. Well, I saw the word digital literacy a minute ago. And probably somebody like me, not quite sure exactly what that is. But we have too many people that are more worried that wasn't written in cursive than what we're preparing our kids to do. So we've got people behind the times. We have a very progressive superintendent, principals, and staff. Now, all of the things we've talked about tonight, Mr. Courtney, Mr. Hamilton, Ms. Dickinson, I think Ms. Haynes is here. I don't know whether Ms. Moss and Ms. Johnson are here, the school board. Honest to goodness, this was for you to have your input. I haven't made up my mind. I don't know. what the best option is, or if there's even an option to go forward this year. But we had a 3-hour work session just last week. There were no decisions made. I know that Dr. Crosley gave us every single pro and con to digest. Now, here's what I'm having. It's going to take collaboration between this community to be, now, we talk about, Mr. Jones talked about kids being rough around the edges. You know, that's life. It happens. When I went to Little Rock several years ago to represent you in the legislature, everybody told me, you got to live in the Heights. We live in the Heights. There's no problem there, no crime there. I went down to Kroger and it got robbed when I was there. My point is, simply this. Every single one of our kids are not perfect. Every single one of our staff can improve to some degree. Our superintendent can get better. We as school board members can get better. What it's going to take is a community pulling together to make the right decision. And if you make the wrong decision, raise your hand if you've never made the wrong decision. We fix it. That big salary that Courtney gets paid every month for being a school board member, it makes him come and do the best he can do and make the best decision as Ms. Dickinson, Mr. Hamilton, and Dr. Crosley certainly runs this thing on a day-to-day basis. I'm encouraged. I'll be 70 years old in a couple of months. Why am I on the school? Because this guy inspired me just like he inspired me and my youth service worker when we go and listen to his vision. So this can't be done without you, but I am so heartened by the input, the number of people who are here. 52 years ago, things were different, but people are still the same. We have to work together. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Any other board members?
Dr. Crosby.
School board president, Alexander.
When we hired you, I think I should be loud enough to hear. I've been 30 years in the Army. When we hired you to be a change agent. The government came across and paid all of our teachers. The one thing I complain about on a daily basis when I got elected to the board and even today is that our teachers don't pay me. My cliche statement at the house is that we get what we pay for. If we pay substandard teachers, we get substandard education. They don't take the time with our students, they don't take the time with our parents, they don't take the time with anybody. So we get what we pay for. We hired you to do the job. It's our responsibility to support you. It's the community's responsibility to support us. If you have issues with us or anything that we're doing, come see us. Talk directly to us. We don't know what you want or what you need if you don't see us. My phone is open. I'm not in Hope every day, but you can reach me. I'm accessible. I'll take the time to listen to anything that anybody has to say. But my sole purpose, my sole idea of being on the board is to be here and try to make this right. I'm like Mr. Powell. I'm 60 years old in November. I have grandchildren who are in this district. I could be doing something better with my time. But as he said about Mr. Porter, because he get paid such a huge sum of money, he'll be for me.
In case you don't know, the insolvency.
Right.
Yeah. Paid such a huge sum of money for these meetings to try and do better for our community and for our children. Then that's why we do this. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other community member, staff member that has not spoken or has something they want to say?
Just real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to work around school district right now. No, I think I'm pretty loud. Just real quick. Ranging from kindergarten to 11th grade. And so, listen to all y'all, I mean, we're a half, we've been half, she's half, my whole star, we're half. I'm starting to wonder if they're not missing out by not to hear and some of these other teachers and principals and, because I've never been around me, I've never really talked to them and y'all, you guys, some big things.
And so thank you for that. That's a very positive comment. And I'll say I get to see that from a different angle, and I wonder the same. Like, are kids not getting a full opportunity to participate in things, and what can we do to change that? All right, anybody else?
It's all about it's all about the children. It's not about me. It's just about the children. The children are separated and don't have a role model who are always with each other. So we come together as a community and say, what is best for the children? I'm a retired educator. I've seen it all. It's time for us to do what is best for our children, no matter color, creed, gender, or whatever. So we must do what is best for our children.
Anybody else? Thank you for that. All right, so I don't have to, but I always like to defer if I need to.
I would like to say, the governor came down about 2 weeks ago, and we got the opportunity to tour the campus. And the excitement around the table, I guess we had 10, 15, but the excitement of those people about the education and hope was recited. And the governor was really impressed with what was going on. But, you know, we hear just a lot of rumors about what's going on. But there's a lot of good people trying to do a lot of good things in the school. And we got to meet some of them with the governor. And I tell you what, I'm really excited about where we're going. We're changing, getting better. But the excitement of the board and everything. But there's a lot of good things going on at Hope High. And sometimes we don't hear about it. We hear about the bad stuff. But there's some good people trying to do a lot of good stuff out there. And the city would appreciate it. Anything we can do to help the school, Jonathan knows we're here. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Anybody else? If you're not making eye contact with me on purpose, I can tell. So thank you for that. Thank you for that visual cue. All right, here we go. Ultimately, I will summarize this way, okay? Truly, it is all about the kids. And I'm dead serious about this. We're looking, projecting out what the next 10, 15 years of our district is going to look like. But I also say we are leading the charge in many ways with what our community will look like going forward. And I'm not saying this because I want that to be true. I'm saying that that is literally what happens in any community that has the size of district that we have and the size of community that we have. We lead a pathway for economic development. We lead a skilled workforce pathway. And what we put out of our system becomes what our community looks like and reflects over time. And sometimes students leave and never come back. Sad to say, I never went back to Gaffney, South Carolina, right? But Hope, Arkansas looks a lot like Gaffney, South Carolina in some ways. But a lot of folks do. Leave and come back and pastor a church. Leave and come back and teach. Leave and come back, become mayor. It takes all of us together. And when I was hired all those moons ago, the thing that rung true as a large, big problem to solve is to how do we as a community come together so that going forward we can have more unity when we're talking about all of these kids that are our kids being taught by those teachers, doing these things, walking across that stage. Because they're going places, unequivocally. There's 200 kids that graduate every year or so with an associate's degree. We got 25 of them every year, about to be 50 in the future. That is disproportionately crazy higher than any other school district in the state. We have more middle school robotics programs right now than any district within 150 miles of us in Arkansas. Like, let's stop talking about what we don't have and start talking about what we do have, because I truly think where we're going, no matter the option or the choice, will be better for our future. When we leave here and we go off and eat dinner and talk about this and say nice things about the superintendent behind his back, we will then, we can come back. We can do, I think another survey of this magnitude doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, maybe, but I also think more conversations like this very well could. So the board is definitely going to talk about this at least on the 20th of February, maybe before that some, but a decision, I will make a promise, I will not put it on any agenda before February 20th. Let's get some ideas. How would you like to be engaged going forward on this? This can be I'll contact whoever. Yes, sir.
I'm a translator because over 33% of our community is Hispanic, and sorry, we're not meeting that need.
Man, you're so right. You're so right on that. You're so right. And there's been times we have and times we haven't, and this is one of those times that we haven't. We put the general information out in English and in Spanish, but don't have an interpreter here to interpret. Laura, this meeting would have been twice as long. Come on up here. Finish it out.
It's over now. We're good. We got you, Mr. Bourne.
Yeah. Tell me, how do you want this to work communication-wise? Any ideas or thoughts?
I think we have to have every
Right.
Instagram, but any platform available, even in your businesses, how can we get information out so that everyone, no one can say I didn't know. That's the thing that people use now. By saying I didn't know, we have to be sure that they know. Just like I said, we have to make sure that they know. You have to let people talk to us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Different things. So you're not going to do it, but in the way we get it out.
Yep.
So between now and then, what do we want to do in terms of engagement on this? Mr. Bourne, you're good at this because you do this in another role in your life. Anything that you have a suggestion on engagement between now and then? Okay. I will commit. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. That'll be immediate. I mean, yes. If not immediate, or not word of mouth immediate, it'll be the next school day for sure. But yes. Now, here are the options. Not to beat a dead horse. We could do a lot of different things. We could do the 2-5-8s, which is HAPS as it currently is, moving to another building, consolidating Yerger and Burl Henry, expanding the numbers at HAPS a little bit and have about 315 in each campus, doing it that way. We could do the 5, 6, 7, 8, where HAPS is a school within a school on both those campuses, kind of starbursting some of those opportunities for all kids, and HAPS is a pathway, just like STEAM education is a pathway. We could pump the brakes big time and say, I want to do something even crazier and focus on some of the things that Crossley talked about, like early literacy and the grade levels there, or some other option. This does not have to happen, literally, does not have to happen next school year. I don't see the reason, if we are locked in on one of these and we want to move forward, I don't see a reason prolonging it another year if we know we're going to go down a pathway. But if we reach this impasse where we don't know and there's other conversation about I really can't live with this and it becomes a situation where it's larger and the board members understand that and I'm seeing that, we don't have to pull the trigger next year. But again, it's inevitable. Something is inevitable because we cannot stay in this building with 300 people in it every day. All right. If I haven't told you recently, I love you and I mean it. I love my job and I love you. I'm not perfect, first to tell you. We'll move forward with communication in English and Spanish, and I will probably plan another one of these between now and the 20th of February. So thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. Have a great evening.